A single typed piece of paper is slipped under a door. It is Sunday morning. The message on the paper is simple, telling the people inside not to panic and that they are perfectly safe. Less than 8 hours later, the floor under that door would be sitting beneath 15 feet of muddy water. The entire city, its streets, its schools, its movie theaters, would simply cease to exist. Most of us assume the place we call home will be there tomorrow. You probably have a mental map of your neighborhood, a favorite corner, a street you walk down every day. But in the spring of 1948, a city of 40,000 people vanished from the map of the American West. It was the second largest city in the state of Oregon. It was a thriving, complex, breathing community. And then, in a single afternoon, it became a lake. This isn't just a story about a natural disaster. It is a story about who gets protected when the water rises and who gets left behind. The city was called Vanport. It was built in a hurry to house workers during the Second World War. But the detail that matters most isn't how it was built. It is where it was built. Vanport was constructed on a floodplain, surrounded by a fragile wall of dirt, isolating people who had nowhere else they were allowed to go. The spring of 1948 brought a heavy, melting snowpack from the mountains. The Columbia River was swelling. For weeks, the water had been creeping up the wooden measuring sticks along the riverbank. By the morning of May 30th, the river was pushing against the earthen dikes surrounding Vanport. The local housing authority issued that infamous flyer. It told residents not to worry. It promised they would have plenty of warning if things went wrong. People went about their Sunday. Some were at church, others were at the local cinema. But at 4:17 in the afternoon, the invisible clock ran out. A section of the dike holding back the river simply dissolved. It didn't break with a massive explosion. It just washed away, creating a gap 10 feet wide. Within minutes, that gap tore open to over 100 feet. A wall of water pushed into the city. Sirens finally began to wail, but it was already too late. The first neighborhoods were swallowed in under 20 minutes. Because the city was built so quickly, the foundations were shallow. Wooden apartment buildings didn't just flood, they floated. Entire housing blocks lifted off the ground, spun in the water, and crashed into each other like toy boats. By sunset, the city of Vanport was gone. Where streets and homes had stood that morning, there was only a vast expanse of dark, debris-filled water. The second largest city in Oregon had become an empty lake.
The destruction was absolute. We know this from aerial photographs taken the very next day, showing miles of water with rooftops floating aimlessly. The flyer that told residents they were safe is a matter of public record. It was distributed by the Housing Authority of Portland on the morning of the disaster. It explicitly stated, "Dikes are safe at present. You will be warned if necessary." When the water finally receded, the official reports were filed. Authorities confirmed that the entire housing project was completely destroyed. But the most critical piece of evidence isn't what was found in the water. It is the data regarding who lived there. Vanport was uniquely diverse. Due to strict, racially restrictive housing laws in neighboring Portland, Vanport was one of the only places where Black families were legally permitted to live. The destruction didn't just erase a random city, it erased a specific, marginalized community. The most contested part of the Vanport story is the human cost. Officially, the coroner reported that exactly 15 people died in the flood. But almost immediately, survivors disputed that number. Many believed the toll was much, much higher. How could a city of 40,000 people wash away in minutes, yet only 15 lose their lives? Some survivors alleged that officials deliberately undercounted the missing. Rumors spread that bodies were secretly shipped out of state or loaded onto foreign cargo ships in the dead of night. These rumors were investigated and found to lack physical proof. Historians point out that the flood happened on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, meaning many residents were out of town. The water also had to travel across a wide basin, giving some people just enough time to run. But the persistence of those rumors reveals a deeper truth. The residents of Vanport did not trust the officials who managed their city, and why would they? The same officials who promised the dikes were safe were now asking for trust regarding the dead. Today, the exact number of people who washed away remains debated. We simply do not know for sure. When we look at disasters, we often look at the math. millions of dollars in damage, thousands of displaced people, but math doesn't bleed. To understand Vanport, you have to imagine standing on a muddy ridge, looking down at the water. You are wearing the only clothes you have left in the world. Somewhere under that water is a wooden box containing your birth certificate, your family photos, the letters your grandfather wrote. The loss of Vanport was an amputation. People didn't just lose their beds, they lost their neighbors. They lost the physical proof of their own history. Without savings and facing a housing market that legally excluded them, many families were forced into temporary trailers or overcrowded, neglected neighborhoods. A city is a living thing. It holds the memories of everyone who walks its streets. When you erase the streets, you scatter the memories. The people of Vanport survived the water, but many of them never truly found their way back home. Sociologists have a term for this kind of trauma. They call it root shock. Think of a community like a garden. If you pull a plant out by its roots and throw it onto the concrete, it struggles to survive. The destruction of Vanport was a massive, involuntary uprooting. This matters today because it shows us how geography is tied to power. The river didn't have a prejudice. Water obeys gravity, nothing else. But humans decided where the dikes were built. Humans decided who was allowed to live on the high ground and who was forced into the basin. When infrastructure fails, it rarely fails equally. The burden of a broken system almost always falls on the people who have the least power to fix it. Vanport was erased by water, but it was doomed by policy.
So, where does that leave us? We know the warning came too late. We know an entire city was wiped from the map. But there is one more thing we haven't talked about yet. What happens when this exact scenario plays out again tomorrow? Looking forward, there are a few ways the legacy of Vanport continues to unfold. As global weather patterns change, we will see more rapid, unprecedented stress on aging infrastructure. Coastal and river cities built in the mid-20th century will face water levels they were never designed to hold back. We will likely see modern versions of root shock, when vulnerable communities are displaced by rising waters. The recovery funding will disproportionately favor wealthier neighborhoods. The map will be redrawn, quietly pushing the poorest residents further out. It is possible, though not guaranteed, that cities will begin massive, proactive relocations. Entire towns may be moved miles inland before the water ever arrives. If we don't plan for the water makes the plan for us. Vanport is a ghost town that leaves no ruins. You can go to Portland today, walk through the wetlands where the city used to be, and see nothing but grass and birds. The water took the houses, time took the rest. But sometimes a city doesn't disappear by accident. Sometimes the erasure is intentional. Where the river erased Vanport from the map,